When I started making this video, I thought I knew how aperture worked, but after diving deeper into it, I really had no idea. There's a chance you might be mistaken too, so stick around. So basically, the aperture in your camera is this part. Can see it? Zoom. That's it. You probably knew that. If you didn't, welcome to the Aperture Club! Yeah, party! Woo! It basically opens and closes to let more or less light in and is tracked by f-stop. You have an aperture in your eyes that functions the exact same way, so I guess you were already in the Aperture Club. So, what effect does opening and closing this do? It lets you balance out your exposure, which can mean faster or slower shutter depending on what you want, and lower ISO, which means less noise. But there's something else that it does, which is very important. It's hard to see how and why it happens in camera, so I wanted to make a model. That's what I set out to do with this cardboard box. It is my hypothetical camera. It was around here where I went wrong. I thought I could just poke some holes and shine a light through, but that is not the case. You need something to direct the light to the sensor, which is traditionally a lens. I wanted to simplify it down for this model, so I found another type of lens. Boom, 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 boom. It's gorgeous. Leica is nothing on me. So how does it work? So the image, represented by a single light source, this will just be one part of the image, hits the lens. The lens then directs the image to a single point. And depending on where that point is, the light will either hit the sensor as a single point or spread out. I guess it wouldn't be a single point because no lens is perfect, so when the light is concentrated at the smallest spot, it's called the circle of confusion. The less spread out the light is, the more in focus it is, basically. Okay, you're probably thinking, what does this have to do with aperture? Well, the other thing about aperture I didn't mention earlier was that the higher f-stop, or smaller the circle in the actual aperture, the larger the in-focus area. I realized I had no idea why that happened at all, so my model actually taught me something. I made this high-tech aperture and I started testing it. Here's my findings side by side. So what's going on here? Basically, the aperture is blocking out the light that would spread out farther on the sensor, so the area where your image looks in focus is larger. Makes sense, think about it this way. The lines are the very edge of the light hitting the lens. This is a graph where there's no aperture blocking out the light around the edges, so the area where it looks in focus is this big. This is a graph where the aperture is blocking out the light around the edges, so the area that looks in focus is this big. Basically, the smaller the sides of the aperture, the more stretched out the areas of focus are.